Hello everybody, Crypto Cap here, and today we're taking a trip back to 1978 and we're off to visit Hong Kong and the Philippines. Settle down, put on your seatbelt, and let's go for a ride. I would like to right here and right now throw out huge props and mega love to my dad. This was the trip that planted the seed of curiosity and wanderlust in me. I'm still trying to feed today with travel. Thanks, Dad. You're the greatest. This was just the first of many, many trips my dad and I have made over the years. There's not a port on the West Coast, practically from Alaska, Sitka, down to Mexico, that we haven't visited, and our trip from Ventura to Tahiti is legendary. Thanks, Dad. Arriving in Hong Kong was one of the most crazy aviation experiences I've ever had in my life, and as a licensed private pilot, I'm going to tell you I've had some crazy experiences. In 1978, Kai Tak was the international airport, and let me tell you, there is not a worse place they could have put that airport. When we arrived in Hong Kong, we arrived on a 747, remnants of a typhoon, thunderstorms all around, heavy rain, visibility in and out, and we landed on a wet Kai Tak runway. Welcome to Hong Kong. In 1978, Hong Kong was still a colony of the British. Hong Kong shares a border with China and is on China's southernmost coast, just east of Macau. Hong Kong is surrounded by the South China Sea on all sides except the north. Hong Kong's climate is humid and subtropical. Typhoons are a common occurrence. For us kids, probably the biggest culture shock of the experience was the food experience. But thankfully, there was a McDonald's within walking distance of where we stayed in downtown Hong Kong most of the time. So at least daily, if not weekly, we were able to have our dose of McDonald's hamburgers, French fries, and milkshake, which made being in Hong Kong in an odd way feel just like being at home. Another thing that made Hong Kong enjoyable and able to feel like home was living on our boat, for our boat was our home. Being able to be in downtown Hong Kong at the Hong Kong Yacht Club, being able to be at the boatyard, which was kind of in the new territories, or being in the new territories at Hebe Haven, which was an extension of the yacht club in the outer territories of Hong Kong. Being able to be on our own boat in our own home just made it practical and livable. And this is Faith. She's a Caribbean 50. She's 53 feet long on deck. Cruises at about 7.5 to 8 knots. She's an amazing girl. This is the kind of boat you want when you're going to sail around the world. Extra heavy duty built, loaded with teak, elegant, and the classiest lady in the harbor at every port she visits. This is Faith. Faith was built in the David Chang Boatyard. David Chang, a world-famous boat builder, most of his career building Choi Lee yachts. Faith was one of 12 sister ships that Mr. Chang and his company built. Mr. Chang was not only a masterful boat builder, he was a wonderful human being. And it was really good to have a local friend in Hong Kong. Once Faith was launched, it was quite a project to get her seaworthy. All the electronics had to be installed. All the sails and canvases had to be made. She needed to be provisioned, and she needed to be sea trialed. I personally enjoyed very much the sea trials. We would literally go out and try to sail her as hard as we could to break anything that would break. Some things did break, and it was a good thing they broke then and not when they were really needed. Mr. Chang was a true gentleman, fixed everything that we broke. One of the major things that broke was a steering cable on our first attempt to leave Hong Kong. Mr. Chang redesigned and rebuilt the steering cables, and there was never again a problem with the steering cables. It was a lot of fun shaking down faith. Made us feel like we were professional sailors. Once we finished the sea trials and provisioning, my brothers and I split up. My brothers flew to the Philippines with my grandparents and had a really cool experience, while me, my mom and dad, and the Deans, John and Gigi Dean, sailed from Hong Kong to Manila. The crossing from Hong Kong to Manila took us 5 days. In the middle of the trip, we had a typhoon to the south of us, and we had a typhoon to the north of us. But thanks be to God that no typhoon was right on top of us, because back then we didn't really have the weather resources that we have today. While we were in the middle of that crossing, we encountered swells in the 30 to 50 foot range. To this day, I have never seen swells as big as the swells we encountered on that trip. The swells were so big that we could not sail, because as you rumbled up the wave to the top of the wave, it was like hitting the peak of a mountain. You would be exposed to the wind, and then you would go down the backside of the wave, and it was totally like being in a valley. The waves were taller than our 55-foot mast. They weren't breaking, and they weren't close together steep. They were just giant rolling waves. The boat would have to motor uphill for 4 to 5 seconds to get to the top of the wave, and then it would motor downhill for 4 to 5 seconds and hit the bottom, and it was quite a ride. Dad, if you see this, I really want to thank you for being the master of adventure all time. You are the true king of adventure, and thank you for being my dad.